nor extinction of old age and death, no suffering, no cause, no cessation, no path, no knowledge, and no attainment, with nothing to attain. A bodhisattva relies on prajna paramita, and thus the mind is without hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear, far beyond all inverted views. One realizes nirvana, all Buddhas of past, present, and future rely on prajna paramita, and thereby attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore know the prajna paramita as the great miraculous mantra, the great bright mantra, the supreme mantra, the incomparable mantra, which removes all suffering and is true, not false. Therefore we proclaim the prajna paramita mantra, the mantra that says gate gate paragate vaksangate bodhisattva.
Please turn to page 89. Mangala Sutta. Thus have I heard that the Blessed One was staying at Savatthi, residing at the Jeta's Grove in Anathapindika's park. Then in the dark of the night, a radiant Deva illuminated all Jeta's Grove. She bowed down low before the Blessed One. Then standing to one side she said, Deva, so concerned for happiness and ever long for peace. The same is true for humankind. What then are the highest blessings? Avoiding those of foolish ways, associating with the wise, and honoring those worthy of honor. These are the highest blessings. Living in places of suitable kinds, with the fruits of past good deeds, and guided by the rightful way. These are the highest blessings. Accomplished in learning and craftsman skills, with discipline highly trained, and speech that is true and pleasant to hear. These are the highest blessings. Providing for mother and father support, and cherishing family. Ways of work that harm no being. These are the highest blessings. Giving with Dhamma in the heart, offering help to relatives and kin, acting in ways that leave no blame. These are the highest blessings. Steadfast in restraint and shunning evil ways, avoiding intoxicants that dull the mind, heedfulness in all that arises. These are the highest blessings. Respectfulness and humble ways, contentment and gratitude, and hearing the Dhamma frequently taught. These are the highest blessings. Patience and willingness to accept one's faults, seeing venerated seekers of the truth, and sharing words of the Dhamma. These are the highest blessings. the holy life lived with ardent effort, seeing for oneself the noble truths, the realization of Nibbana. These are the highest blessings, although involved in worldly ways. Unshaken the mind remains, beyond all sorrow, spotless, secure. These are the highest blessings. They who live by following this path know victory wherever they go, and every place for them is safe. These are the highest blessings. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here and now. In reciting the Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra and the Mangala Sutta, we dedicate their merits to Maha Prajna Paramita and to the great teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, to the ancestors in our lineage who have transmitted the light of the Dharma to this place and time, including the first woman ancestor, great teacher Mahapajapati, the first ancestor in India, great teacher Mahakashyapa, the first ancestor in China, great teacher Bodhidharma, the first ancestor in Japan, great teacher Eihei Dogen, the great women ancestors Dzongchen and Ryonen, the first ancestor in America, great teacher Gon Taizan, to all enlightened women, to all those who have taught and manifested the truth. Please turn to page 28. May their vows be fully realized, and may we accomplish the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita. Chant of boundless compassion. Absorbing world sounds awakens. Buddha right here, this Buddha, the source of compassion. This Buddha receives only compassion. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, just compassion. Thus the pure heart always rejoices. In the light recall this, in the dark recall this. Moment after moment the true heart arises. Time after time there is nothing but this absorbing world sounds awakens. A Buddha right here, this Buddha, the source of compassion. This Buddha receives only compassion. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, just compassion. Thus the pure heart always rejoices. In the light recall this, in the dark recall this. Moment after moment the true heart arises. Time after time there is nothing but this absorbing world sounds awakens. A Buddha right here, this Buddha, the source of compassion. This Buddha receives only compassion. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, just compassion. Thus the pure heart always rejoices. In Shingon. Om Gaga Gabi Sambae Soga. 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 Absolute light, luminous throughout the whole universe, unfathomable excellence permeating everywhere. Whenever these devoted invocations are sent forth, they are perceived and subtly answered. We humbly request the guidance of the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in chanting the chant of boundless compassion and the Jizo Shingon. We offer the merits to all living teachers of the Dharma, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Shodo Harada Roshi, Ajahn Sumedho, and Pema Chodron. May their vows be fully realized.
We also dedicate these merits to those who are ill or in distress, including Roshi Pat Ankyo Carol Senke Robertson, Jamie Onapangia, Corey Mullet, Blaney McDonough, Fran G.K. Eager, Allison Kemp, Abby Mushin Terrace, Jason Crowley, Kristen Van Wieren, Sarah Fletcher, Naomi Tasker, Rochelle Bayless, Aaron Johnson, Eden Gray, Scott Passon, Chris Starr, Andrew Belland, Betty Jo Zerfos, Chris Way, Kathy Richards, Kelly Oleg, Becky Hall, Leslie James, Dave Keene, Sarah Tasker, Sam Hauser, Azazel Harkey, Andy Laramie, Diana Springerland, Karen Prosen, Liam Way, Sally Whedon, Charlie Foote, Patrick Newmare, Tiger Mill Old Growth Wilderness, Caroline Davis, Vince Antonio, Vanessa Fernando, Marina Gingrich, Derek Scalpino, Uncle Pete, Walla Walla City Council, Joe New, Brian Nix, Rosemary Weber, Reed Thompson, Rod Fagani, Lisa Hemmer, Edmund Rung, Melada Vipler, Ross Madison, Tom Dell, Jason Buford, Roby Warnock, all people in war zones all over the world, all people harmed by white supremacy and systemic racism, to all people, animals, and plants harmed by the effects of climate disruption, and all refugees fleeing violence, famine, and persecution. May they be free from suffering and serene through all their ills. We also pray that those who help to guide our cities, counties, states, and nations will be endowed with clear wisdom and compassion, including President Trump. May all countries be led with clarity and kindness. We also dedicate these merits to those in the transition of death, including Jane Goodall, D'Angelo, Gabriella, Marlena Moses, Caroline Winch, Richard Stott, Yarn Shahar, Annette Risk-Elman, Calvert Daniel Kissinger, Robert Redford, Kay Wharton, Chami Diaz, Nadar Amakam, Asat Schlienger, Ron Beery, Lisa Jensen, Animal Companion Toots Maxwell and Dexter, all species made extinct by human activity, to all those who have died in human-made and natural disasters, in acts of terrorism, violence, and war, and to those who mourn their loss, may we and they be serene through these transitions.
May we aspire to turn the Dharma wheel unceasingly to free the world from every tragedy of violence, epidemic, and starvation as we accomplish the awakened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all on earth once, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas,
one bow to the Buddha on the altar, representing a clear, bright mind. And one bow to the camera in the back of the room to represent community here and online. This is your first time to Great Vow, or you've never received any meditation instruction before, then Dojun will be providing a basics of meditation class, which he'll go over posture and basics on how to calm the mind during. So please feel free to attend that class if you'd like. And children can meet with Lori for the children's program right after this. And the rest of us can be seated for Zazen. We will do outdoor walking meditation this morning. So how this will work is Rengyo and I will lead the front rows out. Then the subsequent rows can file out single file behind the first row. And we will walk in a circle around the zendo. If you'd like to stick back and walk inside, you can do that as well. This is a good time to use the restroom and get water. And please just join your place back in line after that.
And shoes and hats are very welcome for outdoor walking.
He's all set.
Please be seated facing the front for our Dharma talk.
I think we'll just meditate together for a moment while the meditation instruction group enters. Good morning. It's good to have all of you here. Is this better? Okay. Good morning. Good to have all of you here. Nice to see you. So we're completing a retreat for those of you that are joining for the Sunday program. It was called Love and Spaciousness. As is the usual for a retreat at Great Vow, the title was definitely present in the retreat, and also Kosho and I brought in what was alive for us in the moment and sort of had some flexibility with that. So thank you for just jumping into the unknown. We purposely did not put a lot of definition in the description of the retreat so that we could have that flexibility and really try to meet the moment, which we learned very much from our teacher Hogan Roshi, who has led many retreats with titles that do not prove to be relevant to the content that is delivered during the retreat. So I'm just doing my best to follow in the footsteps of my teachers. Just to give a little context, we are in ending week 4 of Zen Community of Oregon's Autumn Ongo. And I still need to talk louder, so right up here. Okay, and I can do this. I got this. We started Ongo with a 10-day, like very vigorous meditation retreat. It's our longest meditation retreat of the year. I keep thinking of one of the Dharma talks during that retreat was about hunting antelope, and that felt very much like kind of the energy of the retreat of like, I'm gonna get it, yes, roar! So that was really powerful and wonderful and like a really good element to have in, and then also dropping in a retreat that has a little more emphasis on the heart in the midst of that can feel balancing for some of us. What else is happening here that I just like to note is this is actually my favorite time of year for the wildflower garden. Even though it's not so much blooming anymore, we've had some pretty amazing birds all landing at once to eat the cosmos seeds, and we're just sitting in here silently and they're talking to each other, and it's a very lively space. You might think if you just walk past that it's like falling into disrepair, but actually it's maybe more alive than it was when it was blooming. I just saw a chipmunk, which was like they hang off of one falling down cosmos and are reaching for the seeds of another and are kind of splayed out. And it's an easy source of joy, which there are many at this monastery. We're lucky to have 40 acres. But anyway, we're going to talk about this retreat today and just kind of go over what we went over, review kind of the content for the sake of those of you that were in retreat with us, so you can have a little packaged like conclusion, I guess, which is not what we told you to do, but here we go. And for those of you who are just joining, kind of get a taste for what we've been doing. So we'll jump over to Kosho. Thank you. Oh, this is Kosho. She is the manager at Trillium House and at Heart of Wisdom Zen Temple, which is our temple in Portland, Oregon. And she lived here for 6 years and was Tenzo and did a lot of training. She's recently a postulant for ordination. We're very proud of her. And it's a pleasure to have done this retreat with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Myoyu. We wanted to start a little bit by talking about integration after a retreat, because we didn't mention that this morning, and it's a really important part of retreat ending. And hopefully it's relevant to the folks who just joined us for Sunday as well. Retreat is a kind of more intensive dose of practice, but it applies to any time we practice or come to a place of spiritual intention. We're having the opportunity to embody ways of being, but what really matters, or where we really find the meaning and the intention, is how it ripples forward into our everyday life, every aspect of our lives. We're planting seeds here in retreats, and no one is expected to be able to keep doing all the same things all the time on our own. We know that it doesn't work that way. So it's important not to be discouraged when habits come rushing back. And please notice that I said when and not if. But you also never know how it's going to be. We never know what's going to happen. But for me, one of the most important lessons coming in and out of retreat practice over years is to not let it surprise me when there's the habit energy where, I was able to quiet it during retreat and now the container's wide open and it just comes rushing back in. And over time, I've just really learned to not be surprised by that, but to come to expect it and really practice self-compassion in those moments, really practice a loving voice to myself. And it's really important to mention ways that you can keep grounding. We did a lot of grounding practice during this retreat. So especially in these next couple days coming out, spending time outside, spending time doing simple embodied tasks like cleaning, laundry, cooking food. And then also sharing loving presence with the people in your life. So we practiced deep listening, we practiced non-judgmental, unbiased presence, and now here's where it really comes into practice with the people in our lives. One phrase I've carried with me that I always appreciate that Hogan always encourages is that people really want to hold on to something from retreat practice, and he always says, give it all away. Give it all away. What does that mean? I carry that question with me. The pull is so strong to jump right back into the frenzy of media, especially, and it's just important to both practice that self-compassion when we see it arise, and really do the best that we can to take care to titrate that re-entry.
Yeah, so I've been contemplating integrating retreat and also the purpose of retreat. And part of what's come up for me is, has anyone ever read The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat? It's Oliver Sacks. Can you raise your hand? Yeah. He was a psychologist, neurologist. But anyway, that story, which I will probably get wrong because I think it was over 20 years ago that I read it, really stuck with me. And it's this story, it's a true story, it's a clinical case of a man who, the only way that he could carry on with the routine of his day is if he was singing a particular song. So if that song got interrupted, then like the process of getting dressed would also get interrupted, and he would get kind of confused about like what to do next. And although it's a much less extreme, I feel like that person, that the momentum of my habit energy is like that song that is just carrying on, and the purpose of retreat is to shake that up. And so then I'm left with like, oh, I had this little like idea of predictability and like how life is and how it should be and how other people should be. And then I sit down to meditation and that's all taken away because we are quiet enough to actually see that this really limited view of reality is not actually true. So how do we integrate that? How do we sit down and get shook up and get our like little predictable habit-making mind kind of untethered? And then how do we take that and actually like make it function in our day-to-day life? I think doing all the things that Kosho said and really turning out our heart and energy to service is one really good way. And also just being okay with the complexity and being okay with being confused and sitting down again and letting ourselves be undone over and over again, as many times as it takes, for the sake of opening up to the vast expanse that is our potential. Because that kind of like doing of like, I want things to be predictable and I want my little song to perpetuate is a really small way to live a life. We do the best we can. Maybe we can, as humans, like it starts with maybe just a flute and then we open up and can kind of have a big symphony at the very least. Maybe we still need a song to kind of carry us forward, but it can include a lot of instrumentation for the sake of flexibility.
So we wanted to spend a little time going over some of the seeds that we planted during this retreat. And we were really emphasizing that these practices are simple. And, we always hear teachers say, keep it simple, and just reminding ourselves, again and again to come back to them. One that we brought in, we learned from Chosen Roshi, called Loving Hands Practice. So this is how the way that we touch things, the way that we care for our bodies, the way that we care for the many tools and implements in our lives, the many gifts from the earth, the foods that we eat, and of course each other and our animal companions. Our sense of quote-unquote inanimate objects starts to change when we see the life that is flowing through them. And for me, this practice is perhaps one of the simplest and most straightforward ways of really cultivating quite a radically different climate in my life, a climate of care, a climate of mindfulness and attention. And each person has to find their own language on how to relate to these kinds of practices, what really comes alive for you. But it can really just really change the way that we be a body moving through spaces. And of course, it's, this is the long vision here, the slow rebuilding of a way of being brick by brick. I mentioned during this retreat, remembering my very first sesshin that Chosen led was a loving kindness sesshin, and I was just blown away by contemplating this lifetime, realizing this lifetime of how I interacted with the body. It was always in a rush, it was always a frustration, it was always this thing I had to do to get on to the next thing, and there was a lot of my stories wrapped up in it. So it was so freeing to be able to slow down and brush my teeth with care. We chanted Torei Zenji's Bodhisattva vow during this retreat, and there's a line that speaks directly to this. So, he says, how then can we be but humbly grateful for the food, drink, and clothing that nourishes and protects us throughout the day, these being in essence the warm skin and flesh of the great masters, the incarnate compassion of the Buddha. So really, this is not just a nice idea. I think he means this in quite a literal way. What happens to the bodies of our ancestors? They break down into minerals and they transform into new life, into the bodies of new creatures, into the earth, and what comes from the earth, of course, everything. And so really in a real way, we are we're holding the bodies of the ancestors. I remember when Kenyo, a priest in our Sangha, was training me how to be Jisha. What is the name of the Roshi stick that they hold in Sanzen? The kots. So the Roshis hold this beautiful stick in Sanzen. And I remember just how tenderly Kenyo held it and said, as far as I'm concerned, this is Hogan. This is Hogan's body. And that just totally changed the way that I was Jisha.
Can you give us some more examples of loving hands? Maybe for right now? How do we do that right now?
Well, I have engaged with this particular practice mostly in motion. So I wouldn't say it's been like my sitting still practice primarily, although you can always, we did a lot of practice as what is loving about being a mountain during this retreat? What is the love that comes from that stability? So we did a lot of grounding into the earth, the feeling of where our bodies touch the cushion, the feeling of the clothing protect us. And so it's really a sense of how we move our intention. So, clothes and cushion, but really feeling into the gratitude for the support that's flowing through us through these things in our lives. Also, how you hold the chant book, the teachings. This is not just paper; it's living teachings. It's praise, devotional praise hymns. It's songs of enlightenment and poets that have been passed down for thousands of years.
So that's a very practical practice that you can take into the activity of your life, and it's really helpful to have. As we continue to practice, to continue to build our toolbox so that we have a lot of different ways of practicing with a lot of different situations like easily at hand. So we're cooking and we notice that we're rushing and we can bring in loving hands, or we can bring in feeling our feet on the floor. And different situations obviously will call for different methods. And it's helpful to meet the mind where it is. So if I'm really agitated and there's a lot going on and it's a busy space, then I need to meet that moment with the practice that is most appropriate to that level of agitation and that level of activity. I can't just if I'm interacting with a lot of people, I'm not just going to be like, I'm just a spacious mountain and I can't react to or respond to any of you. It's like, okay, I can be with my feet on the floor and also be thinking about the rice needs to come out of the cooker and the cookies are almost done. I can pull the cookies out with loving hands. Another practice that we worked on, let's see, I have notes. This weekend that we really emphasized was mountain practice, and I feel quite emotional about this morning, but Kosho mentioned Chosen's introduction of loving hands, and Chosen Roshi was also the person that introduced me to mountain, and I really feel like both practices, but for me particularly mountain, is just radically life-changing. Not just mountain, but this invitation to kind of drop this narrow definition of what it means to be a human being and open up much bigger than that. Which led me to this contemplation of, I think in our modern era, the need to have everything clearly defined and exacting and illuminated is really strong. Bright fluorescent lights, big south-facing windows, watches on every wrist, cell phones in every pocket. I need to know what time it's going to rain this afternoon, even if I'm going to be sitting in my office. We just want to know. It's like we have this ability now to think that we're in control. And time has become this really way of really having that exactness come into play. The precision and the need to define is really strong. And I was, right before retreat, Chosen was telling me that you can correct me on this, but in her hometown, there would be a big bell at noon, and that would tell everybody that it was time for lunch. And I think that's really different than all of us being like, okay, it's 11:59. In 60 seconds, I'm going to check out of my job and go eat lunch. And I have exactly 1/2 hour, and then I'm going to go do the next thing. And I have a Zoom meeting that I absolutely can't be late for, and it's exactly at this time. And of course, that has, there are many benefits to that, and we can respond to weather patterns that we 100 years ago would not have known were coming, and lots of great things. But it's also important to be able to drop all that. And I think the contours of our heart and our emotions and our breathing body don't really fit into that context very well, don't really fit into those boxes. And so we really have to find a way, and I think for some of us it's meditation practice, to open up, to loosen this idea of I am a human being and it means exactly this, and these times mean exactly this, to open up to mountain time, which is vast, to open up to the body, which is this ever-changing field of sensation, and actually when we close our eyes doesn't have a definitive shape, is flexible, is loose, and to have the space and the time to really dissolve this need to be somebody in particular. That is so painful. I've experienced that pain. I continue to experience that pain over and over again. The need to be somebody in particular, to project ourselves out to other people. We really need a break from all of that, to turn our cell phones off and just step back and undefine, to unbind this definition and precision. So that was one of our primary practices. And, the relationship of the heart is exactly that the heart, when it's small and contained, or when it has this idea that it's small and contained, suffers, and then we are not as available to offer it to others.
Another practice we wanted to mention is another gift from Chosen Roshi that I call 5 Things practice. It's a gratitude practice, and we wanted to bring it in here especially because it's great for a busy lay life. It's really accessible, and yet for me has had profound ripples into the way that I think and relate to my life. So it's really keep it simple. So very basically, the practice is at the end of the day before going to bed, having a little notebook next to the bed and writing down 5 things that I was grateful for that day, insights, moments of beauty or joy, learnings, just simple and short. So for me, especially at night, the worrying mind comes on strong. There's something about laying down and relaxing into the dark that all of a sudden this stream of worries can start flowing through. And it's just been a profound way to start retraining the mind that is always skewing towards the negative, and realize that even on the worst days, there was something, there were moments that just flew right under the radar until I recalled them back to mind. And it's really about a commitment. Like, it's a simple practice to say. For me, it's not enough to just think it. I have to actually write it down for it to work. I'm sure thinking has an impact too, but writing down has been important for me. Not about perfection. Some days I can only get to 4, and that's okay too. It's just also good medicine on the really hard times to go back and read through the previous days. Just kind of part of that generating a new climate in our lives, so it can help us to see or to build a feeling of abundance when the mind is really wanting to skew towards lack. And it's also really helpful and enjoyable to do it with someone else too, to each say out loud 5 together, going back and forth. That just, again, helps strengthen that whole field of sympathetic joy and gratitude in our lives.
So we wanted to give a couple people at least an opportunity to talk about practices that have worked for you, and particularly maybe in moments when your heart does feel defended or closed. Like, what do you do? We got one hand right up, but please, let's get the microphone for the sake of, we have a number of people online this morning.
Often at the end of the day, when it's been busy and my mind is full, but I bring things back by, I come back to my center by taking my hamster out and holding her. And right before the retreat, she escaped behind the dryer. So I was with her for about 2 hours, so I could see her eyes just peering out from under there. And she seemed so powerful, like a small creature can seem so powerful when they're hiding under something gigantic, right? Because nothing could touch her. That's one thing, just holding my hamster for sure.
Thank you. Jordan?
Hi. One that I like to do throughout the day, is this working? Yes. Okay, cool.
Loud and proud.
One thing that I like to do throughout the day, that I started doing last year, I like to do bowing bathroom practice. So every part that I use in the bathroom, I like to really appreciate that it's there. Thank you, toilet. Thank you, mirror. Thank you, water that came from the Willamette River. And so it starts with simple, just bow to the bathroom, and before you know it, you'll have a list of 1,000 things that you can just keep flowing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Couple more. Maggie?
sometimes the bathroom made me think of it. If I'm able to, so if I feel that my heart is closed or there's a tightness, and I'm able to just say, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, like it's just a pause moment, then I'll go in the bathroom, and if I can remember, I will talk directly to the closeness, because it usually feels like it's kind of young, like a little kid, and I'll just be like, oh, like I'm right here, like tell me what's going on, and then I'll give some sort of expression to the closeness, like I don't want to be here, like I hate everybody, and I'll just like let that part just really just go for it for a moment, and it's amazing how much like relief that can actually bring to my physical heart. I think that's been like a revelation to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Back. Thank you. Miyosho?
I have to remind myself to let the reminders be what they are. When there's a frog on the sill of your door, hi. Part of me, my alarmist part is like, this frog doesn't belong in here. It needs to go outside. What are you doing in here? And then instead of just sort of being like, hey, look. Or the spider web that I walk through. Oh, wow. Thank you. Just allowing the reminder to remind me of how beautiful it is.
One more, Jessica? Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. This was from this weekend, actually. It's the gentle hands. Or the loving hands. I do a lot of work with my hands every day, and they get very sore. And so it was a revelation to be taught that I could put pillows under my hands during Zazen. And the amount of relaxation that I got from simply resting them in a soft place, it was so moving to me. And I know that that's also true for any part of the body as a practice. That if it's sore and you put it in a very comfortable place, a lot of tension can go away from that simplicity.
Thank you. So we wanted to just share a little bit of a living example. Myoyu and I have an 11-year friendship and sistership of deep trust, and the sympathetic joy is easy, and that came from us willing to work for it. We lived in community for a long time, and I think learned some really helpful lessons from that. So we wanted to just share a little bit, going through a spiritual journey together, that work of, we were talking about practices that we do on our own. We wanted to talk a little bit about being in relationship and community. Because sometimes the people that we're closest to can be the most challenging because our identity is tangled up with them, or those the most that we're alike or feel the strongest affinity for can feel most threatening to my sense of specialness and the project of defining and defending personal territory. And what deeper freedom can be found from seeing any story that I have about the other person is made up and a block to my loving them, and how the heart longs to let that go. So one thing that we learned living in community is really having a commitment to owning and seeing through our own stuff. So what am I, flinging onto this other person, and a real commitment to see through that. And to keep showing up. So, spiritual community is such a gift in that way. We all show up to do the practice together. Maybe we just had an argument, but we're still going to sit next to each other and sing Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva that evening. Or, there's really a power to that. Do you want to jump in here? Yeah, Yeah, one of the things we reiterated in this retreat is just that, the greatest gift that we can offer each other is unbiased, stable, non-judgmental attention. So this real, Myo talked about this in her talk, this commitment to meeting each other fresh each time we meet has been a huge part of our practice living and working together. And I think Myo wants to talk about that a little bit more.
No, go.
Well, just this, spiritual practice is transformational. So we have to be willing to, or at least what has led to our deep friendship is a willingness to let each other grow and change and not hold each other to the person. We're totally different people than when we met 11 years ago. Not holding each other to that, and especially to our ideas about the other person. We also talked a bit about how that the embodied experience of spaciousness, that embodied experience of an untangled or unobstructed space is not different from the spacious heart, the experience of a spacious heart. And that real equanimity, a silence can open up to love, and also love can open up into silence when we're not in conflict with what we're experiencing. So that goes back to that commitment to meeting each other with a non-judgmental attention and a fresh eyes every time we meet. Why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, thank you all for being here. It's such a pleasure to, and a source of confidence in human beings when we have this big of a group coming together to practice with the heart. And I think I spent a lot of this retreat just feeling a lot of gratitude for that, because it's, getting on my computer and reading the news, it feels like a completely different world than this. And so continuing to come back and ground in this reality and staying here with my feet on the floor next to these people is actually more real, and that is easy to forget. So over and over again, just remembering that community is invaluable, and that how easy it is when we're on our own. And the era that we're in, being on our own is really easy to do. We can shop online and, we don't actually have to interact with that many people. So we have to make an effort to come together and be challenged by each other and love each other and grow with each other. And let's also have lunch together. That sounds great. I don't know what it is, and I'm hopeful. We'll close with the 4 great Bodhisattva vows.
The following chant is on the card beneath your mat. Four great Bodhisattva
Boundless
Thank you, Myoyu and Kosho, for sharing your wisdom. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for the retreat for Sunday program. Thanks to the folks online for joining us as well. Guest retreatants, your phones are in a blue basket in the guest area, so you can grab those on your way out. So it's time for lunch. But beforehand, we need to clean the zendo up a little bit. We can put all of the blue mats back in the back corner here. All the chairs also go back there. All the cushions go back out in the hallway, as well as blankets and small support cushions as well. And we will leave a row of 7 and a row of 6 on both sides of the zendo of the blue square mats. Thank you. Also, if you have a black mat, the black mats can go in the hallway and not in this corner.